Hey guys, Stephen here, Fanatic Perspective. Shout out to Bleacher Report content creator stream. We are here talking Texas. It is our Wednesday Texas Talk corner. And I'm excited just to share three things that we learned from Texas' huge victory over Michigan this past weekend. Still living on the high, living on the vibes of the weekend. But jumping right into it, the first thing I want to discuss, and I'll break this out over three different segments, but to start this thing off, the three things that I think that are big takeaways from this victory. Number one, Quinn Ewers' ascension as a college quarterback to being a Heisman contender, right? So Quinn Ewers is a Heisman contender. Number two, Texas having one of the best defenses in the country and showing that after what they lost with Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy to the NFL draft. We'll talk a lot about the Texas defense today. But number three, which is really exciting, is the young Texas talent and the immediate freshman impact and young guys from the 2023 and 2024 recruiting classes that made such a big impact on this team right away. So those are the three things that are big takeaways and things we learned from the Texas team this weekend in their victory and really the start of this season. But starting off with Quinn Ewers, what a performance. He's now the betting favorite for the Heisman Trophy. A lot of people giving him his praise. We know the awards that he won this week, well deserved, leading your team into the heat of battle in Ann Arbor, knowing the winning streak that Michigan team was on, defending national champions. Everything has been stated. But as we start going back through the tape and really looking at Quinn, his performance, and also dissecting the numbers, it is really, really, really sexy in terms of what the some of the high level NFL throws he made. The throw he makes to Matthew Golden when he's rolling left before the end of the half, and he hits some outside shoulder, outside pylon. The throw he makes to Gunnar Helm in the end zone, the pocket movement, and some of the routine, what he makes now to look routine off platform stuff, where he's able to layer a football in between coverages is remarkable. And he has a very, very unique ability that I think the NFL has already taken notice of for a while. But now we're starting to see the intangibles from Quinn Ewers, the juice that he got his team fired up with, being settled and patient with his feet and leading them on that opening drive, even though they didn't get points because of the holding call and the missed field goal, but leading them down the field and letting them know, hey, we're going to be okay on the road. How about the fact that he plays well in big games, but now he's vocal and more of that leadership role of guys to lean on him in big games. It says a lot when you're one of the most talented players on the field, if not the most talented player on the field, and you play your best ball in the biggest spots. Talk to me, chat, because I'm here live as well. So I'd love to get y'all's feedback on this. But I want to share some statistics as we kind of go into what does a Heisman type season look like for Quinn, because that's something. It's one of the most prestigious awards, in my opinion, of all the sports. As a college football fan, it puts you in college football lore. It's a fun thing to talk about. Yes, I know we're only 2 weeks into the season, but so far Texas Michigan has been the biggest game with the biggest storyline coming out of it. So it is time to discuss. On top of the guy being a candidate coming into the season, so just going into right the narrative of improvement, right? Where did Quinn come from in that growth, right? So as you look here, uh, on, on my screen, let me make this a little. Actually, I'll share this again for y'all. All right, much better. having a quarterback in his system for 3 years and the growth of what you see with those players. You see Quinn, up and down freshman year, below 60% completion percentage, not bad touchdown interception ratio. But we know he had some really good games. The Bama game before he got injured. We also know he had some stinkers in there, right? The Oklahoma State game on the road where, he's got his whatever's wrong with his hand and in the wind, and he completes, I think he threw like the incompletions in that game, right? Freshman woes, if you will. But we go into 2023, right? And last season, Texas goes 12-2 as a team. Quinn misses 2 games, but he still starts 12. 22-6 touchdown interception ratio, much better. The jump from 58% completion percentage to 69%. And that's with him still last season really struggling with the deep ball. The deep ball efficiency, he was still below average. So that 69% means that short to intermediate, he was 75%, 80% territory in terms of accuracy and ball placement. And that number goes hand in hand in terms of, not seeing those interceptions there, but also having an improvement on yards per attempt when going up 1.4 in that category. So the improvement you saw just from freshman year to sophomore year, which also includes a physical transformation. And I'm not just talking about him cutting the mullet, but actually getting in shape body-wise, getting some of that baby fat off of there and becoming a real college athlete, improving his pocket mobility, which was an issue freshman year. You look at those aspects, that's a big jump, right? Quarterback rating jumps over 20 points. And now here we are in year 2. And yes, it's still 2 games in. 1 game versus Colorado State that he played about 2.5 quarters. And then the Michigan game against one of the best defenses in the country. By the way, Michigan still, in my opinion, has one of the best defenses in the country. I don't care what people are saying. That team's going to stop a lot of people. They're going to make a lot of teams look real bad on offense, and they're going to continue to get better throughout Big Ten play, no doubt about it. Wink Martindale, that's not the last we've heard from Wink Martindale and those guys. But going into his junior year, right? So it's his 3rd year in the Sarkisian offense. This is AP level coursework, as we talk about on my channel. Now he's up to 70%, 6-1 touchdown to interception ratio, off to a terrific start to the season. And that yards per attempt is only going to continue to scale over the next few games as we go up against UTSA, which we'll cover on the back end of this video, and ULM the following week before we get into conference play against Mississippi State at the end of the month. But the growth of Quinn Ewers from day one, stepping on Texas campus, not playing his senior year of high school, sitting that year at Ohio State out of frustration, and NIL, he was the first to take advantage of NIL, of course, as it came into law in 2021. And just the maturation process of the player has been remarkable, to the point where he was just one of the guys back in 2022 is guys like Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson were the leaders of this football team, to now this is Quinn's football team. He has taken ownership of the offense. And not only do we see that statistically, but you see it, like I said at the beginning of this, intangibles, decision-making, and decisiveness, especially in a game, early in the game against some of the best defensive players in the country, some of the best corners in the country, like Will Johnson, knowing not to test him too much, knowing where his holes are in zone, and understanding, hey, when to use my athleticism, right? Taking off and running. And I know the rush yards aren't appealing. I think he's negative because of sack yardage and whatnot right now. Been, going from -52 his freshman year to 75 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns on the ground. And this year, I'm sure he'll have some more rushing touchdowns strategically, right? Not getting hurt, but opportunities where, hey, man coverage, people's backs return, take what the defense gives you. And I think that's something that the NFL, seeing somebody who has those gunslinger type abilities, those X-Men type abilities, but also the same type of dude that can say, hey, I'm going to just take what they're giving me today. There's no need to rush. There's no need to freak out and panic. I'm going to be able to move the chains and get my team down the field. And then, oh yeah, when it's time to be special, oh yeah, when it's 3rd and 13 and Bubba needs to make a play, I'm gonna be here to make it. That's the perfect blend of quarterback play that you want to see. Now Quinn is up against some big dogs. You see some of the names even down here. Carson Beck at Georgia, who and Jalen Milroe. Those two will face off. Georgia and Alabama will face off before Georgia comes to Austin, Texas. But Georgia potentially could be, that Georgia-Texas matchup, assuming those teams handle their business, could be number 1 versus number 2. Quinn Ewers playing that game on his home soil, right? So the reason why this is exciting is because the SEC schedule's ahead of him. These massive games are ahead of him. These massive rivalry games with storylines. Getting it back in blood against OU after a difficult start last year. Being the first team in the last 12, 13 years to play A&M and going to Kyle Field, going to College Station, after Thanksgiving and playing against those guys. So there is a lot still to get, to quote Hayden Connor in the Texas Mini movie that came out on the Texas football site today. We got a lot more winning to do. So shout out to Quinn in that regard. Stay claim, right? Early in the season, narratives matter in college football. Stories matter in college football. Shout out to my guy, John Davis over at Locked On Longhorns. He talks about, he and I talk about stories all the time in college football and the narrative. So that is a big one right there, right? So just looking to highlight that right off the bat in terms of Quinn Ewers' Heisman, campaign. It's in full effect right now. Carson Beck, Jalen Milroe will be heard from. I know he had a down performance against USF. And then you have guys like Jackson Dart who are lighting it up at Ole Miss. Cam Ward, who's been lighting it up at Miami. Miller Moss at USC, who's gotten off to a terrific start. So there are some guys, some outstanding quarterbacks, as well as unique players like Ashton JT at Boise State, and some position guys who have the ability to go off. McMillan at Arizona is another one. So those are some of the more outside guys, because you know how the Heisman is. It's pretty much a quarterback award unless somebody does something crazy. But those are guys who are just off to a great start, not to mention, but Quinn is right there at the top. The second thing that we need to talk about in terms of what we learned, there are a lot of questions about the interior of this Texas defense. We know what they went and did in the portal, right, and the improvements they made. You saw it in full effect in the Michigan game, getting guys like an Andrew Makuba, getting guys like a Jermaine Lole, Savea, Bill Norton, Trey Moore from UTSA, who will be facing his former team this Saturday. Lot of good stuff that Texas got out of the portal defensively. But I think I think a lot of people underrated PK just being here another year under Steve Sarkisian. He was a guy at Washington who got better and better and better the longer he got entrenched there with his personnel, his kids, and his development program, quite frankly. I think there were questions there with the loss of Bo Davis going to LSU, going back home to his alma mater. Kenny Baker coming in from the Miami Dolphins. Yes, coming from the NFL, but has he really been a position coach? Has he been a recruiter like that before? Now you're adding a Johnny Nansen in from Arizona, former DC. Will he vibe with PK? What will this defense look like? And look, I don't care how stinky the Michigan offense was and them playing Colorado State. When you hold two D1 programs to no touchdowns for the first 7 quarters of the season, your defense is legit. Let's start there. Okay. They didn't give up their first touchdown of the season until the 4th quarter of the second game of the season at Michigan against the defending national champions. They didn't give up their first touchdown of the season until the 4th quarter of the second game against the defending national champions. That that's balling. Okay. Now, if we go and start looking at the team rankings, because we got some more stats to bring up here, because there's a lot of questions about Texas's ability to stop the run, Texas's ability to get off the field, um, points out, things of that sort, things that were really, really big time elements of what made Texas so successful last season. So this site has offense and defense here, but let's focus in on the defense, right? So right now, Texas is only allowing 6 points per game. Again, early in the season, but remarkable. 238 yards per game, 16th in the country. Um, yards per play, they're right there at 30. Third down conversion, again, in the upper half of college football. But when you look at red zone scoring, fourth at only 50%, while you're batting 100 on offense, you're going to win a lot of football games that way. This defense, how is it coming together, right? There was a lot of questions. We allowed, I think, right at 3 yards, maybe 2.7 or 2.8 yards per carry last season, which was elite. Again, these numbers are early. A lot of teams haven't played. A lot of teams that will skew a lot of this data, but 3.6 yards per rush is fantastic, right? And I think that number will only continue to improve as Texas finds, their fronts on the defensive line and rotations. There's a lot that they're still working out. We talk about Michigan getting better throughout conference play. Texas has a lot to improve from. Remember the three things I said, right? Quinn is a Heisman, Texas's defense, and the young talent. The young talent is going to play into this as well, right? In terms of these metrics going up, guys getting more snaps, getting more comfortable in the defense. The biggest thing I've seen improved, because Texas has held on to their elite ability to stop the run, but what the biggest thing that I've seen improved, and this is something that many of us as Texas fans have been praying for, right? From our lips to God's ears, can we get a pass defense? Can we play the ball in the air? Can we get our hands on balls? Can we be a disruptive defense? God, Lord willing. And our prayers have been answered thus far, folks. Look, I know we have not played elite quarterbacks yet or anything like that. Don't get it twisted. But we're off to a good start. And that's with our sack percentage not being great. I think our pressures are better, but our sack percentage is not even great yet. But when you look at opponents' yard per pass, passing yards per game, 139. We played an air raid school our first game. We held those guys to well under 100 yards passing. We know Michigan couldn't throw the ball to save their lives. No disrespect to those guys. But, again, the data skewed. But opponents' yards per pass, 4.9 yards versus 8.7 on our side. So statistically, Texas is getting it done early in this season, right? And so these numbers are going to look good the first 4 games, probably through Mississippi State, because Mississippi State's going to come in. Jeff Lebby, Blake Shapen, those guys are going to be looking to throw the ball around and make some plays with their veer and shoot and the tempo that they'll run. But that's something that Texas is now more equipped than ever before, in my opinion, to deal with. 12-2 last year, these guys were 3 points, 9 points overall differential from going 14-0. And what it took to beat Texas last year is what it's going to take to beat Texas this year. You're going to have insane quarterback play to beat Texas. Let's keep it a buck. I don't think I need to even show any more of these numbers right now because we balling, okay? We top 10 in the country in turnover margin. The penalties, that's whatever. The zebras are always against us. But overall, these numbers are way better. We balling. But let me turn this off so I can look at you people in the face. Look, Texas is getting to a point, or has gotten to a point, where you're gonna need some Joe Burrow 2019 type balling to get a W against this Texas team, in my opinion. Carson Beck's going to have to play the game of his life because mediocre quarterback play is not going to get it done when you look at the speed of this defense, the physicality of this defense, and the depth of this defense, combined with the coaching and combined with the experience. The only way to be able to beat that is elite quarterback play. Think about, I just said last season they were 12-2. They lost 2 games. OU, Dylan Gabriel had the best game, I would say, of his collegiate career. And maybe not statistically, but in terms of everything he did in that game, including using his legs and the 60-yard runs to manufacture points. Dylan Gabriel had to have the game of his life. And that's a guy who is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. So it took that plus Texas being sleepwalking the first half for them to get beat. It took Michael Penix and them damn Infinity Stones, right, of Roma Dunze and Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk, plus the little hammer at running back to beat Texas. Down the last play of the game, Quinn get the ball down to AD Mitchell, give us a chance. Like that, don't get me started with that. But that's what it's going to take if you want to look at Texas's schedule over the remainder of the season. Michigan didn't have a chance. Like looking back at it now and putting it in that context of what will it take to beat this team, because I think the ingredients are there with the quarterback play that you're getting on Texas' side, the mastermind that you have with Steve Sarkisian, the young talent, which I'll get to here next, a veteran defense. I mentioned many of the names of the transfers. Some of those guys could have got drafted last year. They're here to improve their draft stock. Shout out Andrew McCluba. You're already doing that. So you're going to need, Florida comes in here. DJ Lagway is going to be Cam Newton. And that might not be enough. We'll see, right? And I know I probably sound crazy to some of you guys right now listening that are like, man, Texas drinking the Kool-Aid. These fans are out of control. What are they on? Michigan's probably mid anyway. What is blase? I'm just telling you what my eyes see when we look at that ball and what it took to beat this team last season. And I think this team is going to be better. This year's version of Texas is better than last year's version of Texas because of the areas that they've grown in and where they're at defensively in comparison to what it's going to take to win in the playoffs, in the college football playoffs. The improvement of that pass defense and where I think our pass rush will get to by the end of the season. That's one thing I need to see worked on coming up here, by the way, against UTSA and ULM. I need to see a lot more guys in the backfield disruption and getting after the quarterback. So that's something that we definitely can work on and have a lot better play just overall. The third thing I want to get to in terms of takeaways, things we've learned. Texas is young, fast, and deep and full of talent and guys that are contributing right away. My co-host on the Fanatic Perspective side, many of you know Tran. Shout out to Tran. Tran says all the time, I want my 5-star guys to play like 5 stars. And the reason why we've said that, and that may sound silly to some of you listening that are not Texas fans, but those of you who are Texas fans, we've gotten 5-star guys over the years, over our down years. It's not like we've been just totally absent of all talent whatsoever. We've got, even pulling Bijan in 2020, right? Throughout the years, we've had 5-star guys come onto this team, but they haven't been developed. We had a terrible drought without any first-round picks, going from Malcolm Brown all the way to Bijan Robinson last year getting drafted. That was a long drought just of no first-round picks. But we've had 5-star guys in this program. We had a whole class in 2018 that we had 3 5-star safeties. And none of those guys ended up becoming first-round picks. And, they all kind of went their separate paths. Shout out to DeMarvion Overshown, who's balling for my Dallas Cowboys That's a sidebar. But the element of development is key in here and present in Steve Sarkisian's tenure as Texas coach. And I couldn't be more excited. When you look at the field Michigan, these were so many of these kids that were making plays were the same kids we've been fighting for in recruiting, trying to flip guys, right? So I'm gonna start with the 2023 class, just so you guys can see the instant impact of what some of these kids are already bringing to the table, right? So we know Arch is there, and Arch actually speaks to number one on this with Quinn of why he came here, because nobody is more qualified to deal with and address quarterback play from a pro development standpoint than Steve at this point. Maybe him and Lincoln Riley are up there in that conversation. So that's number one. But Arch is that's a sidebar. Anthony Hill, star linebacker, Big 12 freshman player, defensive guy of the year last year, one of the freshman All-American, like absolute stud right off the bat out of Denton Ryan. We didn't need to wait for him. He's able to come in here, plug and play, and be totally effective right off the bat, right? Jelani McDonald played a ton, in part of our rotation. Derek Williams Jr. These are guys that are top 100 guys. These are guys that you should be developing into day one, day two picks. Derek Williams Jr., one of the best players out of Louisiana that we fought hard for, had interception, made several plays in that Michigan game, and is one of our best defensive players now on this football team. Malik Muhammad, already borderline shutdown corner if he's not there already. And Andre took over as a starter at the end of his freshman year, has not looked back since. This is only year two for him. These guys are still kids. This is the 2023 class I'm on right now. And I've only scrolled down. I'm still top. This is the 66th player in the country, the 74th player in the country that are contributing for us right away. 51st player in the country. These guys are balling, right? Leifau, Gillette, these guys are starting to make some noise as they move up the chart. But let's even go to 2024, right? True freshman, right? Because I only really talked about defense there. Look at the first two names. Colin Simmons, highest graded player according to Pro Football Focus coming out of the Michigan game. Colin Simmons. Right off the back, instant impact player. Number one, 247 have him as a linebacker, but on three has him as number one edge in the country. 5-star stud, two-time state champ out of Duncanville, gets a sack against Michigan. One of our best. I just said he was our highest graded player in the game. Ryan Wingo. This has been the year of the receiver, of the freshman receivers so far. So many of these young guys already out here making plays in the first couple of weeks. Ryan Wingo is in that list. They ran the Xavier Worthy counter reverse that the Chiefs scored on opening night. They ran that for Wingo. He pops off 55 yards. Y'all must have forgot. Shout out to Roy Jones. The talent this staff has accumulated that is already contributing. And why is it important to have so many young guys? Jared Gibson scored a touchdown, freshman running back. Guys like that who, hey, we're short. We've lost CJ Baxter, who you saw on the previous page, who was our starting running back. But we got guys filling in right away, instant contributors. This speaks, by the way, to the element of recruiting for Sark. This speaks to the maturity and the culture within the program and the growth that has happened. But when you scroll down those lists, Jonte Cook was on there. These are guys who are a part of your core 2 deep right off the bat. So because to me, you have to have that perfect infusion of young spicy NFL talent that needs to be cultivated, but they can help you early. You need to have your portal guys, your mercenary guys, your guys that are looking to and then to improve their stock and to fill holes. And then the core of your core guys like your Quinn Ewers, your Kelvin Banks, your really talented guys that have been there over the years that you've developed, and they're the key leaders, captains on your team. When you've got those three ingredients working in tandem like that, the meal's going to be pretty good. And so far, it's been delicious here in Austin, Texas. And I'm excited for what's to come. Led by my Heisman candidate at quarterback, my fast, electric defense, who is one of the best in the country and one of the deepest in the country, and the infusion of young talent, the merging of the present and tomorrow all in one, and where this Texas team can go. What a time to be alive as a Texas fan, because Lord knows the suffering and how long it was without any lick of development, embarrassment, worrying about games like this week coming up. UTSA, Texas is 34-point favorite at home. I used to worry about whether or not we'd win the game, not cover. Shoot, just 2 years ago, we were in a dogfight against UTSA. That now UTSA is not what they once were just a year or two ago. Jeff Traylor and those guys, they are struggling. Got their butts whooped by Texas State at Bobcat Stadium last week. Shout out to Texas State. But those are the type of teams where people used to say, oh, is this a trap game for Texas, blah, blah. I just told you. The only two people that even beat us last year needed godlike performances at quarterback to get them those W's. So where can Texas go from here? The sky's the limit. In terms of individual awards, in terms of draft picks, as well as championship consideration and being true national championship contenders. When you go and do that at Michigan in that environment, you're announcing yourself to the rest of the college football world. And y'all let me know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know how you feel about this Texas team, what you learned, some of your biggest takeaways. I told you my 3 big takeaways from this game. Moving forward, health is wealth for Texas, and just sharpening up some things, eliminating some of those penalties. I know I talked about the zebras, but we can be more disciplined, especially at the line of scrimmage, and finding more young guys, getting more young guys some action, getting Arch some action, and developing him. As good as Quinn has been, he's missed time over the last couple of years to injury. So we got to make sure that Arch is ramped and ready to go if that opportunity presents itself. But ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate Bleacher Report for having me on here. Very excited. Follow me at Fanatic Perspective on all social media platforms. Most importantly, my YouTube channel, Fanatic Perspective. And for those of you who follow me all the time, y'all know what time it is. Horns always up. Hook 'em.